blah, 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 blah. If I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume, and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exact when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per click. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, I'm struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords, Also, make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored products, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding. Hello, and welcome back to the most comprehensive and deep dive Amazon advertising Q&A session you will find. I'm going to go on a limb here and say anywhere on the internet. One, because I'm pretty confident with the answers and just the deep dives that we do here. And then two, I know our capabilities in terms of Amazon advertising. So what is this segment for? Which, by the way, hey, first time watching, my name is Elizabeth Greene. I'm one of the co-founders of an Amazon ad agency. So we run your Amazon ads so you can run your business. We focus in on business-centric Amazon ad strategies. What do I mean by business centric? I just mean, what are you trying to achieve? And then how do your ads support that? Because what I have found over the years, started discovering this back in the day when I was freelancing, and my conviction that this is the most important thing when it comes to developing the right Amazon ad strategy for you is connecting ad strategy with business goals. And so that's what we work to do. And that's what I want to democratize and give everybody access to with this little segment. So how does this thing work? You can, wherever you are listening into the stream, if you're listening to the replay, welcome. We hope you get value. But if you are listening in here live, what you can do is drop whatever Amazon ad question you have into the chat, and I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to give you my best answer given all of the things that we're working on. And so a whole host of knowledge, hopefully to drop it on you today, because I'm continuously up-leveling my skills, consulting with a team, learning new hacks, new tricks, new workarounds. Just found a new workaround for a sponsored display optimization a couple of days ago. I was like, oh, there's a hack for that. You can't do it in the interface. You can do it with a bulk file. So always looking for that new extra way to do it. And so my goal is to every week continue to up level your skills, be it managing your ads, trying to get an understanding and work with your agency a little bit better, or maybe you're a freelancer or an agency. All of you are very much welcome here today. So it looks like we got questions already rolling into the chat. So hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Dwayne. Welcome in. Got some questions. So yeah, so you can absolutely drop questions as the intro is going in. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start rolling through the questions now, and I will answer those questions. If you're asking any non-Amazon advertising questions, by the way, depending on the amount of questions, or if I feel like I have really some insights to share there, I'll bring those up. So I prioritize Amazon ad questions just because that's my realm of expertise. Really freaking good at Amazon ads. I know a lot about a lot of things, but in terms of like real true expertise, that's where it lies with me. And then we'll go in order in which questions we receive. And hopefully I can go to everybody, but I'll be here for about an hour. So let's get into it. Here's a really interesting question. It's just saying, I sell a product in multiple flavors and target the same keywords for each in separate campaigns. How come the same keywords have different CPCs in every campaign? Price, cost of goods, and fees are all the same for each. It's a really good question. It comes down to what Amazon prioritizes in their bid algorithm. One of the things that they prioritize is relevancy. And one of the things that some of the data points they use to gauge relevancy is customer interactions or shopper interactions with products. So things like click-through rate, conversion rate, add to carts, those kind of positive shopper signals actually are factored in when they're deciding which products are going to get priority. So a huge factor of your CPC is definitely going to be your bid. So the first question I would say is, do I have the exact same bid set on all of these campaigns? Now, you will not bid against yourself even if you're targeting the exact same keywords, as long as those advertising campaigns are in the exact same account. So it's not like you're driving up your own cost per clicks in the ad auction, but what you are doing if there are different bids is you're saying, hey, Amazon, I'm willing to pay a little bit more here. You're entering the ad auction at different price points, which will affect your CPC. However, if all things are equal, you're like, I got the exact same bid, the exact same everything, just know that the other thing that is actually factored into the ad auction is the product performance on some level. And that's also why if you ever have a product where you've had a campaign that's been up like forever and the algorithm just seems to prioritize that campaign for whatever reason, and maybe you've tried to test that keyword in other different campaigns or you've tried to do things, yeah, that is a factor. Is like, what is the history behind that campaign as well? So all of these things are factored into the ad auction and will affect your CPC. So that's why you're seeing the results that you're seeing in your account. It's totally normal and, to be honest, to be expected. Now, the what would I do with this given information, right? How do I affect these things? It's really just the algorithm is going to prioritize and do what it's going to do based on a host of different factors. So our role as ad managers is simply to manage based on the data at hand and the data at front of us, because you're not going to have any control over where this happens. You're just going to see it. So what you want to do is whenever you're going through and making your bid optimizations, or you're adding your negative keywords, you're, adjusting budgets or whatever the optimization you're doing, you want to make sure that you're only looking at like, what is the actual performance of this specific item, be it the bid adjustments or, what is the campaign? Should I add more budget? And as long as you're optimizing based on data and based on that specific product's performance on those keywords, then you'll be moving in the right direction. All right, great question. Joseph is asking, when you take over an account, what's the first steps you take in order to bring down the total A cost? If the ad sale to organic ratio is high, then reducing tacos becomes harder. Yes, Joseph, it does. It is difficult. So what you need to figure out is, where can I cut spend with the least impact to my total sales volume? That's what you want to look at. The way that we found the easiest to sort of identify where these places are in the account is to take a look at the parent ASIN level performance. Typically, we would look at the last 30 days, maybe the last 60 days or so. And we would say, okay, for each parent item, which product, in this case would be like listing, or which parent ASIN has the highest total A cost and has a lot of spend going to it. And so if you identify those specific products you can focus in on, because again, sales are really determined at the product level. So you want to know, where is there a potential overspend on what product? And then you want to dig down into the ad structure, because what we used to do in the beginning was just kind of take a look at accounts as a whole and say, okay, so you can ask that same question as the account as a whole, is where am I spending? And that is not leading to sales. That right there, any spend that is not translating to sales, you can be pretty confident if you cut it, you shouldn't affect total sales so much. However, what we found is that a lot of times if you're just looking at the overall account and everything there, you still want to perform those actions. Anything with clicks and 0 orders, again, not leading to the sales you want, in some ways like not effective ad spend. But oftentimes those targets are sometimes on like lower performing products that just don't have a lot of spend in general. So an example would be if all of the targets that had, over 15 clicks and no orders, and that was your threshold and you're cutting those back, and you went through and performed those actions on a product that, say, only made up about 1% of the total spend in the account, well, the impact you're going to have on that overall account is going to be really minimal, because again, you're only really refining 1% of the total ad spend. Small impact. If you moved up the ladder to say, okay, well, there's this product that I got about 20% of my total budget on, and the total A cost is very high for this product. There's probably ways that I can be more strategic and cut ad waste here. Then your impact is going to be on that 20% portion of the budget, and you can be confident that you're moving the needle the quickest. So I would look at that layer. Which products do I need to dig into? Oftentimes there's like 2 or 3 really big hitters that you want to dive into. And then your question then becomes, where do I cut spend with the least impact to total sales? The bottom of that ladder, the easiest one to cut is going to be things clicks with 0 orders. So get all that waste. That can be on a search term level or a keyword level. And then you work your way up from that. Say, okay, I got rid of everything that has 0 orders. What about things that have low impact on orders? So like a lot of clicks and only 1 to 2 orders. I'm not really getting more back from this. And then you cut that layer, and then you just kind of work your way up from there. What we have found is that what I found over the years, it used to be going to the account. Okay, so I got to cut spend. What is spending the most? And then that is the thing that I'm going to cut. What I discovered, again, this is back freelancing days, but it still holds true today, is if those things that are driving the majority of your spend or taking the majority of your spend are the things that are leading to like the most sales in the account, that's when you see total A cost actually go up. So sales go down, so total cost is up, everything's a mess. So you want to still cut ad spend, but make sure you're being strategic on 1, the things that have the most impact, and then 2, being very careful of what you're cutting and that it doesn't lead to loss in sales. All right, good question. I hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you for asking. It's been a long week so far. We're only at Thursday, but I'm excited. I'm gonna go see family over the weekend, so looking forward to that. We are running low on inventory and only have a few items left. If we raise the prices, the buy box gets suppressed. This is a good strategy to avoid going out of stock. So, from my understanding, at least what I've seen, if you have low stock, oftentimes your conversion rates are taking a hit, because depending on the distribution will change your of like where your products are located and in what warehouses will change the ship times for certain locations across, I'm assuming it's the US, but it could be, EU, UK, wherever it is. And so those change in ship times will affect conversion rates in certain areas. So we've noticed is that as your inventory decreases, you will see conversion rates decrease. So naturally, the products may or may not perform very well. And your question was on suppressing it. So if you are going to be out of stock for more than 2 weeks, I would recommend just allowing the product to go out of stock and not really super restrict what you're doing, because what happens is if you increase or you suppress things, Amazon, like the algorithm will take note and just say like, oh, sales went down, so they're going to assume that you're just not going to have very good sales, because they're not taking a look at, they're not thinking through like the logic and your reasoning of, oh, I'm slowing down sales because I'm trying not to lose, run out of inventory too quickly. All they're seeing is, oh, sales are going down, conversion rates are going down for this product. This product might not be selling very well, right? So that's what the algorithm is seeing, because it's just reading the data. And so what you want to be careful with is kind of going out where it's just like a trickle at the end, and you've already signaled to the algorithm like, hey, this product doesn't maybe perform as well as maybe it was previously. Maybe there's something wrong with it. And then when you come back in stock, you're kind of like playing catch up from that. Any way you slice and dice it, when you go out of stock, it's not pretty, and you're going to have to go back to launch period. But what I will say is that if you're going to be out of stock for more than 2 weeks, I would be careful about slowing sales too much, and that it could hurt you when you come back in stock. Now, if you're going to be out of stock for like only a couple days or so, and it's maybe less than 2 weeks or less than a week, then you maybe want to slow it down, because in that case, like it's going to... we haven't seen that hurt as much. because you can kind of baby the current stock and wait for the other stock to go in. So, yeah, you're saying, should we aim to sell out completely? I would say if you're already going to be out of stock for over 2 weeks, just sell out. Go out with a bang. Obviously, you want to be careful of profits. You don't want to go out unprofitable, but you can go out on a high note is what I would recommend. Gil or Gilbert, great to see you back as well. All right, got another one. How do you pick highly relevant keywords? You want to think through this logically. So there's 2 ways. One, does this keyword describe my product? How specific is it? So some of it is logic, and the other one is looking at what appears on that specific search page. So an example of this would be baby blankets. Say we're selling baby blankets. If I go and I search baby blanket on Amazon, I will see a variety of different types of baby blankets. I will see personalized baby blankets. I will see swaddle blankets. I'll see knit blankets. I'll see muslin blankets. It's a lot of variety. So that would be a relevant keyword because my product is a baby blanket. That would not be a highly relevant keyword because it's not very specific. So 2 ways. One, does it naturally just describe my product? You can use that as sort of like a first step. And then if you're a little bit unsure, what I love to do, I still do this to this day. It is like I can't really find a substitute for it, is go onto Amazon, type in that shopper search, look at what shows up. Whatever is ranking the highest, especially on that first page, you can be confident that that's what shoppers are purchasing when they are searching and then buying through that keyword. And then your question is, well, how like my products are these products? And the closer that those products resemble yours, the more highly relevant that keyword is going to be. Joseph, in most cases, I can achieve better tacos by allocating budgets more wisely. Practicing ad budget caps so the entire account can't spend more than X amount a day, or is it more by expanding keyword research? Yeah, so budget control is going to be it is the quickest way to adjust for total A costs by none. I listen to a lot of people in the space who will talk about, well, you really want to adjust your keyword bids, and keywords are the best way to adjust for your total A costs. I have to disagree with that. Now, I'm not saying that bids are not insanely important and a huge strategic lever that is so often overlooked because it's considered, oh, that's super basic. Bid optimization is, gosh, it is at the core of everything. If you get this right, gosh, trust me, it's phenomenal, the results. That being said, it is not the quickest lever you can pull when you're trying to control ad spend because it takes you a little while to find that sweet spot. And you also have to be very conscious when adjusting bids. You don't want to adjust things too drastically because oftentimes you miss that sweet spot and you put really important keywords in jeopardy. So you really, when it comes to adjusting bids, one of the key things is to make sure that you're not adjusting too quickly. But when it comes to budgets, oftentimes you can adjust a little bit quicker. Here, of course, you want to be really careful. If you restrict it too much, you can get in. But budgets sort of act as a cap to say, all right, I'm going to test this many clicks on these keywords at these bids. It gives you a fail-safe, go no further on my spend lever to, again, help control spend. So when I talk to people or I hear people in the space talking about, well, you really just only adjust bids. I'll be honest with you. If I'm recalling the people who advise those kind of solutions, they are oftentimes people who are in my position where like I'm not pulling the day-to-day levers on accounts anymore. I'm still in strategy and I'm still like strategically talking to the team and making sure that I'm keeping up to date based on what they're saying. And what I'm hearing consistently from the team is budget optimizations are crucial for quickly controlling ad spend. And while they 100% agree that bids are important, budgets are where it's at if you got to move quickly. So I would say your idea here is spot on. When you're talking about expanding keyword research, any new keywords you're testing are going to add ad spend, not take away from the account. So you want to be very careful with how you're going into that. Do you have a video with how you set up PPC for variation listings? I will touch on this in a bit. Variations have their own nuances, and I'm talking to brands, we're advertising with brands, I'm consulting with a ton of brands in the clothing and like large variation space. So we have a lot of experiences here. Yes, I do have a video. I'll see if I can find it and I will pull it up for you. But essentially what you want to do is focus in on the products that perform the best. So the variations, your child ASINs that are the best performers. I actually just had a call with one of my account managers this morning, and she's been working with a large variation product where they're essentially all the same products, but they're just different colors. And so she was saying, you know, like we really needed to cut back and we really needed to control total ACoS on this product. And there was a hesitation because, you know, some things are tests is like, if we don't advertise all of the colors, how much are we going to hurt ourselves? And what we found is that really because those other color variations just weren't performing as well in the ads. The performance wasn't there to justify spending on them. So what we did is we pulled back on the ads for all the variations that didn't perform. And in fact, what happened is that the total ACoS significantly improved. Ranking was better, everything was better. So what you really need to do is make sure that for your core keywords, you're focusing in on those best performing products. Pro tip here is the best performing products in the ads isn't always necessarily your best performing when you look at your business reports. You definitely want to analyze both your advertising and your business reports to really get to the core of this. And then what you want to do with the rest of your products is for those variation specific searches. So an example would be like black water bottle or purple women's water bottle for running, right? You see how those are really specific to maybe a specific color, or sometimes you'll have size variations. So we did this in bedding where it's like queen size sheets, king size sheets, those like very obviously connected to a specific search. For those keywords, you want to build out separate campaigns with the products that fit those keyword descriptions. And then you connect the relevant products with the audience searching for them, and you will get much better performance there. So for your main core, everything you're doing, focus in on those bestsellers. We would pick the top 1 to 3, depending on how much stock we have. So Joseph, hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to see if I can find that video for you as well. CPC is high for branded and display campaigns compared to sponsored product ads. JTV, I would ask, what bidding strategy are you using in your sponsored display campaigns? A couple thoughts here. One, if your CPCs are high, one of the best ways to try and control that is bid. So see if you can lower bids and still gain impressions there. And then if you are struggling with that, one thing I would ask is, what is your bidding strategy for those at the sponsored display ads? It's allocated at the spot. Bidding strategy in sponsored display ads is set at the ad group. So I would ask, are you using optimize for page views or are you using optimize for conversions? If you're using optimize for conversions and you're struggling with the cost per clicks being too high, I would test optimize for page views and see if that helps bring down the CPC. I used to have many orders and high ROAS on my exact match keywords, but I'm losing my traction despite increasing my bids and optimizing my top of search bids. How do I recover the same performance that I used to have? To discover how to get back to where you were, you need to know what was happening at that time. So was it that you had better conversion rates? Was it that your cost per clicks are lower? What was that? So the two things that go into ROAS is ad sales and ad spend. So what I want to know is it that ad spend went up and sales did not go up? Is it that ad sales went down and ad spend remained the same? Like, where is that balance? What happened? And then when I know what happened, spend or sales, I can dig into spend. So let's say it's spend. Spend is determined by your cost per clicks, or how many clicks on average it takes to convert in clicks, right? So is it that more clicks are happening and I'm not like I have more clicks per order, or is it that I'm paying more for each of those clicks? Am I getting the same clicks and am I paying more? Well, if I'm getting the clicks and paying more, that could be like a market thing where cost per clicks, your competitors are starting to bid more. Maybe you increased your bids a little bit too high, and so that caused your CPC to go up. I just want to know what happened. Or if it's a sales going down thing, then my question was like, is it the conversion rate dropped? Is my product just not as appealing at this point? Something changed? Sometimes it's things that changed in the market. So it could be your competitors increased or improved their listing in some way. It could be that they decreased their prices. They could have added coupons. There's all kinds of things that could happen. And so really the goal is figuring out when it was working, what were the numbers? And then if I look at the current numbers, which of those has changed the most? And then out of those numbers that changed the most, what are the factors that influence those numbers? And then that will lead you to the correct conclusion. So if it's a conversion rate thing, you troubleshoot that. If it's a CPC thing, you see if you can get it down, and then you work your way to the correct answer. What is the right way for a campaign structure for sponsored product automatic targeting if you have multiple SKUs with multiple color variations? I'm going to assume that you mean like the main automatic campaign, because what we will typically do is launch more than one auto campaign if we have products like this. So I'll talk through like the core campaigns, and then I'll talk through maybe some supplemental ideas you can have for these things. So for the core campaign, what we'll typically do is, going back to my prior answer about if you have a lot of variations, you really want to focus on the ones that perform the best and make sure your ad spend is going to those products. So we would translate that strategy into our auto campaign setup as well. You want to have one campaign, one ad group, and then one products across only one parent ASIN put in there. And then if we have the data to identify which of the variations or child ASINs perform best for that parent ASIN, we will only advertise maybe the top one, maybe the top 2 or 3. Again, it depends on how close the top variations are to each other in terms of performance, and then how much our stock fluctuates. Are we constantly running out of stock for the bestseller? In that case, we want to make sure we hedge our bets and we have like the other next best child ASINs in there. That's the core. Now, what are the supplemental campaigns? Well, oftentimes with child variations, you can find like groups of products that are performing really well. So you might have a bunch of products that are more geared towards like female, maybe more pinks and purples. Let's be honest, those appeal better to a female demographic. You might have ones that maybe appeal a little bit more to the male demographic. You might have different size variations. You might have different pack sizes. All of those, the subgroupings of your child ASINs. So oftentimes what can be really effective is to take all of those subgroupings and put those into their own auto campaigns to allow the algorithm to maybe go out and find other search terms that are more relevant to those subgroupings. And so I would kind of think of it along those lines. So again, you kind of have your core campaigns and then you have your variation specific campaigns. The other thing that we found really effective is if you have like a laundry list of products on the listing and you're kind of advertising all of them in that auto, launching an auto, again, just for like the number one bestseller can be effective as well. What is the impact of keyword stuffing when we optimize listings? To be honest, this one I'm not as much of an SEO expert, so I would defer to somebody who actually knows SEO. Hey Elizabeth. Here's saying, since we can't measure new to brand KPIs, however, if you have any way to do that, please share some insights. Yeah, so you can measure new to brand KPIs if you look at sponsored display and sponsored brand ads will give you new to brand KPIs. So if that's important to you, you can track it that way. However, there is some reports you can pull with repeat purchase, like to look at repeat purchase. To be honest, I'm trying to remember where in the ad in your account that is located. It's not in the ad console, but there is a way where you can take a look at like cross sell. I want to say it's in brand analytics. I do believe there's a way you can see that's cross selling. That's not new to brand. Anyways, if you're just talking about advertising new to brand, that is calculated at the sponsor brand and sponsor display ads. However, most of your ad spend is probably in sponsor product ads. So if you're not running those ad types, you wouldn't be able to see those data points. If I'm remembering correctly, I do believe AMC will allow you to get new to brand metrics on sponsored product ads, but I'll have to get back to you on that because we're just starting to explore that analytic option. I'm seeing some questions on listings and some questions about hiring. I'm skipping over those. Yeah, so often can't see new to brand KPIs for sponsor product. Okay, sponsor brand. So let's say if we go to sale on sponsor product and a sale on same keyword on sponsor brand, would they overlap? Don't you think? Potentially. So really, if you wanted to gauge these things, AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud data, is going to be what would give you the answers to these questions. Unfortunately, currently, you can't really run that unless you are running DSP advertising, is historically. Now they're starting to make AMC data available to brands who are not running DSP, but that's in the very early stages and you still have to go to through a partner to get access to that. But if you could get access to AMC data, you would be able to answer those questions and pull those kind of reports. Hey Elizabeth, if we're launching a new product in Amazon and we have to start PPC campaigns. Is there a second part to your question? All right. Looks like we got a long one. If we're launching a new product on Amazon and we have to start PPC campaigns, please guide what campaigns we should auto exact or what. And what should bidding strategy, whether it should be Amazon's recommended or should I start with low bids? Please explain in detail things in advance. All right. I am fresh off a conversation with one of my most amazing brand managers. I'm going to give you some specifics, things that are working right now and are crushing it. All right. So what you want to do is you want to go through and you want to pick at least 10, roughly 10 highly relevant keywords. You also want to make sure that these keywords have a decent enough search volume on them that you can make an impact. So you're looking for the intersection between relevancy and good search volume. Once you have those roughly 10 keywords, you could go with a little less or a little more. 10s, we found a really good sweet spot. You're going to launch those in a sponsored product exact match campaign. One campaign, one ad group. It is helpful to choose a fixed bidding strategy here. We don't mess with placements in the beginning. Also, when you are choosing the products to put in this campaign, You want to make sure that it's only products for that specific parent ASIN. If you don't have data to support which one's going to perform best, you can advertise all of the child ASINs and then simply go back and look at those, look at the ad groups and take a look at the products and see which ones perform best and pause the underperformers. I'm getting into optimization territory. Let me jump back into the setup. You want us to launch these in single keyword exact batch campaigns, not because there's anything wrong with grouping keywords, but because what we have found that the less keywords you have, the more control you have over the optimizations for that keyword. And as on launch, goal is all about control. So we will launch it there. All right. Once you have done that, where do you start the bids? We would start the bids at or slightly above the suggested bid is what we found, because we want to make sure that we're being more aggressive here. I wouldn't go crazy with too high bids. Actually, one thing that we have found, and I say we mean my amazing account managers who are constantly learning and testing things, if you go crazy high in the beginning, because I used to say, well, there's a couple ways to do it, right? You can go crazy high, like $5 bids or something, just like get it out there, get it seen, get it sold. Or you can start low and work your way up. Well, what we found is that if you launch really crazy high $5 bids, the spend's going to just kind of go crazy. And sometimes it's hard to optimize down from that. It's a little bit easier to optimize up from that. So what we would do, launch it, bids above the suggested bid. And then you want to check those campaigns twice daily. And what you're looking for is to make sure that you're getting impressions. If you're getting less than, say, 1,000 impressions, you want to make sure that you're increasing the bids. It could be that you might see that the suggested bid changes and you're no longer as aggressive. In that case, you want to increase it to a little bit above the suggested bid again. Or if you're still not getting those impressions, even if you're above the suggested bid, we would increase it. You could do somewhere between 10, 25, maybe even as high as 50 cents, depending on how aggressive you want to adjust upwards. Our goal is to optimize those bids frequently until we can validate that those impressions are rolling in. Because again, the keywords that we've chosen have enough search volume for us to expect to have really high impressions on them. So if we're not getting impressions, we know that our bids are not aggressive enough. Once we have validated that we have impressions, then what we're doing is watching for those other positive signals, which would be clicks and orders. For whatever keywords we start getting clicks and orders on, we know that those are the ones that work for us. And from there, we know we found the sweet spot of our bids because we're getting those impressions. So then we'll shift to make sure that we're adjusting our budgets and making sure that our budgets are healthy enough on those single keyword campaigns that we can really make a dent in our rankings. From there, that whole sequence probably takes maybe a week or two. If you can get the feedback in a couple days, fantastic. Oftentimes it takes a little bit longer to really push and get things rolling here. But once we know the product is well indexed and we're starting to see those positive signals, that's when we would go through and we would launch auto campaigns or broad match campaigns or other campaigns along those lines. Hopefully that was detailed enough and helpful, but let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that. I have a few campaigns with 5 ad groups, 20-ish keywords per ad group. Most keywords are pods. There's only a few active keywords across the campaign. Have big budgets, but they're not spending. Any thoughts why? Most likely it's that your bids aren't high enough. If you have healthy budgets and you're not seeing spend, then I would look at seeing if you can increase the bids. Hey, Elizabeth, you're doing great. How do you see Amazon updates regarding ANC for sponsored products? Have you tried it in accounts? Not yet, because we are banging on Amazon's door. They told us they were going to give us access a month ago, and they haven't got back to us, and we can't get them to do anything. Very classic Amazon. We're working on it right now. We do have an internal developer, which means as soon as we get access, we're going to be able to move quickly, and we will be testing it thoroughly. In terms of the impact that it currently has, I'll be honest with you. Everyone's talking about how amazing AMC is and which don't get me wrong, it's fantastic amounts of data. But how you actually are able to leverage that information inside of Ad Console and with sponsored product ads right now, the impact of actually leveraging the audiences is quite minimal at this point. Basically how it works is you would curate an audience and you would say, hey, for this specific campaign, I am willing to bid more. So it's basically like placement percentage adjustments for that specific audience type, which is, don't get me wrong, insanely powerful. But if you really know how much placements impact campaigns and their performance, bids, budgets, what keywords you're actually choosing, what products you're actually choosing, all of those things have a way more significant impact on your campaign performance than placement percentages. Again, don't get me wrong. Placement percentages are a fantastic layer of optimization, but they're simply an enhancement of things that already work. You can have a product that sucks and a bid that doesn't work for it and a keyword that doesn't make sense for the product and have the best placement optimization strategy out there. And like, you're not going to fix a crappy keyword and crappy bid with a placement percentage. So I only go that to say, like, the core of what works is still very much there. And are you missing out on a potential optimization? Yes. Are you missing out on something that at this point is going to make all of your competitors significantly like beat the snot out of you in the ad algorithm? No, you're not. I'm keeping it ear to the ground. We are putting a lot of emphasis and a lot of like effort and money and time behind on like unlocking AMC for sponsored ads. But at this point, you can be confident that like nobody's going to beat the crap out of you in ads if you're missing it right now. But my goal is for like us to explore that, feedback that information, be like, oh my gosh, this is what's working. This is the specifics. Here's how you do it. Here's the unlock. And then as we learn, I will definitely make sure I pass that information on to you guys. If I adjust my bids today, how long should I wait to check if the keyword is working? Typically about 24 hours. Now, I just told you, or if you were here listening when I was talking about launch strategy, we do look and adjust the bids 2 to 3 times a day, but here we're looking for impressions. And so you can kind of refresh and see like, are impressions even coming in? Kind of same day. What I do want you to be aware of is that the data inside the ad console, even though you will see data for today, it is not updated real time. It's probably about, I think it's like 24 to 12 hours out. So if you check like today's data tomorrow, you'll have a more accurate directional. Also, that data is like back updated up to like, I think it's like 30 days. But I would check it. I would be more confident of, quote, is it working? Am I seeing anything? Of like, say, today's data tomorrow. So what is that? About 12 or 24 hour difference. Kim saying, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everyone. I appreciate all the questions rolling in, man. I'm going to have to start speeding through these things. Goodness. All right. Let's get through this one. So on brand defense campaign, should I negate my brand name in all auto broad phrase campaigns? Should I bid less on brand defense campaigns because my brand is not well known? Great question, Kim. So I would say in terms of negating your brand name in all of the other auto broad phrase campaigns, you can if you want to really segment things. Now, we do in brands where they have a lot of brand search because we want to make sure that if we're getting aggressive with our bids, we're not like accidentally targeting a lot of branded traffic. And in terms of how you optimize your branded campaigns, we always like to optimize those for profitability. Unless we have a competitor that's like really going after us, or there's some reason why winning on those searches is more important than profitability, that would be the only exception to the rule. But in all other cases, I would say we would always optimize our branded traffic for profitability because they already searched and found us. I don't really want to lose money on those sales. Best way to set up and launch ads for a plumbing business with 30 SKUs and a budget with very specific keywords. I need to quickly find what SKUs to push ads for and what to get sales from being very, let me reread this question because I think I have a really fantastic answer for you. Best way to set up launch ads for a plumbing business with 30 SKUs on a budget with very specific keywords. I need to quickly find which SKUs to push ads for and which will get sales from being variant. Okay, in that case, what I would do, it sounds like you have one listing with 30 variations, I'm assuming. So the quickest way to do that is going to be setting up your launch campaigns with all of the variations active in those, because it sounds like it's a new product, you don't have data. And then going back, maybe checking about weekly, twice a week or so to see which of those variations are performing best in the campaigns, and then just continuously pausing the underperformers. That'll be the quickest way to get to the answer with the least amount of ad spend waste, instead of like setting up a bunch of other campaigns and having to look across everything. That's honestly an absolute mess. And so I would group them in there and just do that. In-house campaigns, I'm bidding on my ASINs from my ASIN. Should I bid less because I might not be creating additional sales? Next, is it smart to also have campaigns for my ASINs from the same ASINs? Yes, it is smart to do that. I don't think you'll be hurting yourself as long as, again, you're optimizing for profitability. So the easiest way to do this is in whatever bid software you use, typically speaking, one of the settings is what is my target ACoS. So say my target ACoS for the overall account was like 25%. I would probably set the target ACoS for this campaign at like 20 to 15% or something like that, like 5 to 10 points below what I'm already targeting for the overall account. And so the reason why you don't typically set really low ACoS on any bid optimization software is that a lot of times what it does is it will decrease the bids a lot, and I will lose out visibility. Well, in this case, we are prioritizing profitability over visibility because it's not like a rank campaign or anything that I really want to lose money on. And I'm okay with sacrificing impressions to have it more profitable. So in that case, that's how I would approach the optimizations. But it sounds like you're on the right track. Also, how can we analyze competitor sales? The best way to estimate these things are a fantastic way to look at competitors is I really like Smart Scout for this. They have some really great tools for like market, competitor, and category views. So I would look at that. But then there's also other ones like Helium 10 has a great one, like Black Box and things. These are all estimates. Nothing is 100% accurate unless you can get one of your competitors' business reports. You're not going to have super accurate data, but that will give you at least like directional ideas. But there's lots of software out there that will estimate competitor sales. For a new product launch on Amazon, could you guide which, all right, we already answered that one. How to automate keyword research. I wouldn't recommend automating it. I really wouldn't. That is the core. Like, if you are talking about a launch strategy, you are going to have a pretty crappy launch if you're just automating the keyword research. I wouldn't do that. Now, if you are talking about like systems to make it easier and quicker, that I'm all for. Just make sure you're curating those lists. And so strategies to expand on a good launch strategy, the easiest way is going to be downloading your search term reports, identifying what search terms are not already as keywords, and then making sure that you're launching campaigns around that because that's more data-based. So I would be okay. I don't want to fully I will be clear here. God love all my software providers. You make my life so much easier. And I have consulted with so many software providers and seen what they're building. And it's like, some of the stuff people are building is mind-blowing and I love it. I am never going to be a fan of any automated system that says, oh, let's like automate taking search terms and putting them in as keywords. No, I'm sorry. There's too many if-then statements. There's too many scenarios in which I would want to be doing something and then completely change up my strategy. It is dependent on so many variables that an account manager will understand that is very hard, or it moves too quickly to really set up automation rules around it. Not a huge fan of completely like leaving everything up to a software. So, yeah, I would say wrapping it up. If you're doing a launch strategy, be super specific with what you're choosing. That is like the core and the crux of if your launch strategy is going to work correctly. And then if you want a quicker, faster way to do it, definitely use a software. So there's good ones like Data Dive or Helium 10, Viral Launch, Jungle Scout, all of those. You can leverage some of their systems to find better things. Smart Scout is another one as well. There's some really interesting insights you can pull out. But yeah, again, curate the list. Curate the list. That's what I'll say. I sell in supplements, and about 80% of my campaigns are one campaign, one ad group, one FBA product. Awesome. One keyword. Is there a downside to changing one to FBM and one FBA product per ad group? Nope, not at all. If we do this all the time. So if you have an FBA product and you have an FBM product, I'm assuming the FBA and the FBM are on the same child ASIN. Let me articulate this correctly. Only the SKU that has the buy box for that child ASIN will be eligible to be shown in ads. And if you have this a switch that often happens where like once the FBM SKU is active and once the FBA SKU is active, it actually is really good practice to put the FBM SKUs into the same ad groups that you're advertising the FBA SKUs in. Because when that switch happens with the buy box, all of a sudden your ads are just going to switch over to advertising. What'll happen if you don't put it in there is you'll be like, wait, why are sales down? Oh crap, I'm only advertising the FBA. Oh great, let me scramble to add these into my ads. And so because ads only are activated for whichever product or whichever SKU, to be more specific, has the buy box, you can leverage that. So it just naturally switches over. So it's good practice. John, appreciate you watching. He's saying advertising makes my head hurt. Thank God for, you know what? Honestly, listing optimization makes my head hurt. So I appreciate you joining, which by the way, John Aspinall from PickFu, if you're not following him on LinkedIn, first off, follow him on LinkedIn because he's got amazing content. Second, if you're not leveraging PickFu to identify where you're falling behind on main images or watching John's content on how to improve main images, what are you doing? If you want better performance, definitely go and check that out. How do we identify those highly relevant keywords? Which relevancy and high volume? What you just suggested. I'll give you the process. Okay, here's what you want to do. Go into Helium 10. Search Helium 10 magnet specifically. That's the keyword research tool. You want to put in whatever you think is a decent keyword for your product. So again, baby blanket. I'm going to put in baby blanket. And then what you want to do is you want to sort that list highest to lowest in search volume. As you do that, you're going to go down the list. This is not your final list. This is a pre-step. You're going to go down that list of keywords and you're going to look. Where do the keywords start getting relevant to my product? Again, and when in doubt, pop it open, look at the search page. Like, no, baby blanket's a little bit broad. Okay, wait, muslin swaddle blanket. Because again, I'm going down by search volume. I can find that, okay? So you want to find your highest search volume, most relevant keyword. That's your starting point. Then what you do is you pop open your highest relevancy, most searched keyword. And then you go through on that search page and you say, okay, I'm going to grab at least, you're going to grab 10. I think you can do more than 10 in Helium 10 now, but you can grab 10 of the highest ranked. Again, it's the main keyword you're going after. And then you take those and you pop them into Cerebro. And then that's your keyword list that you're going to curate. And then you're going to download that keyword list. And then you are going to do a count if formula. I did not come up with this. This is genius. This is by Brandon Young. There's Data Dive. There's other tools like that. So you can definitely use Data Dive here. I'm giving you a different process. And you want to count how many of those products, again, the 10 that you searched, are ranked on X keyword. So you'll have the columns for each product, and they'll say, well, this product is ranked at 20, and this product's ranked at 90, and this product's ranked at 30 on this keyword, because the rows are broken down by keyword. And then you're going to say, okay, count if how many of these are ranked on page 1. And that number that it produces, if you sort highest to lowest, will be your relevancy score. So that's your relevancy score. So the higher the relevancy score, typically speaking, the higher the keyword, the more the keyword is going to be relevant to your product. And then you want to manually go through this list. So I was just talking about, like, that's the automation, like that's the process. You can hand that off to a VA, and then that final step of going through that final list, because not everything is going to be perfect. Then you want the account manager or somebody who really knows what the heck they're doing to go through that final list and say, okay, I know this is a really relevant keyword, but there's not a lot of search volume. And then you just want to say, okay, out of all the highly relevant keywords, which of these has high search volume, which is most applicable to my product? And then you're going to pick the 10 cream of the crop, best of the best of those. Those are what you want to do. Yeah, John Hospital saying actionable data, non-actionable data. Yes, absolutely. All right, we got 4 questions left. Some people are asking if we're taking questions from Facebook. I am, but I'm skipping over question. Oh, I missed some. Did I miss some? All right, let me make sure I'm not. I might have skipped your question. Okay, I'm going to answer your question. Sorry. I want to ask about bid adjustments. In the following scenario, if a cost is high, then how should we adjust bids if CPC is higher than the targeted bid? A cost is lower, but a targeted bid is less than the CPC. A cost is lower with the CPC. Okay, let's go through these line by line. If a cost is high, which typically means to bring down a cost, you would decrease the bid. How should we adjust the bid if the CPC is higher than the targeted bid? So if the CPC is higher than the targeted bid, there are 3 things that would be impacting this. 1, you already decreased the bid and you haven't gotten enough clicks at that new bid to bring down the average CPC. So i.e. that new bid is not tested enough. So that's scenario number 1. But you don't want to always assume that is the case because the other 2 scenarios is where you have dynamic up and down bidding, and you have used placement percentage adjustments, because placement percentages and dynamic up and down bidding will both increase your CPC to be greater than your bid. So what do you do? Well, if you're doing it correctly, this is hard to do manually. You want to check. Do I have dynamic up and down bidding? Do I have placement percentages? Is that what is affecting and making my bid lower than my CPC? If yes, then you want to make sure when you're making your bid adjustments, you're adjusting from your bid, not your CPC, because if you actually adjust from the CPC, you will increase the bid, which is not what you want to do. So scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, or the first scenario I just talked about, if your CPC is greater than your bid because you already adjusted the bid and you haven't actually tested that new bid, well, then you shouldn't change it because you haven't gotten any testing on it and you don't really know if it is not working. So you leave it be and you wait to get more clicks to adjust. All right. Scenario number 2. A cost is lower, so good A cost, but our target bid is less than the CPC. So if A cost is lower, I am assuming that you would increase your bid to try and get more sales. There's reasons why you would want to be careful of that. So you might just leave it alone in this case. But same thing applies. Is it low because I have placement percentages, or is it lower because I haven't really tested the bid? Same thing applies. Check if it's the placements. If it is triggered because of that, then adjust the bid. If not, wait until you have tested the new bid. And 3, ACoS is lower, or CPC is lower than the targeted bid. If CPC is lower than the targeted bid, then you can be confident that placement percentages and that whole scenario I just talked about before. So then you would just adjust your bids as normal. Hopefully that answer. Okay, goodness. Okay, we have them rolling through here. I probably have, I really got to run. I have time for probably about one more question. So apologies if I have not gotten to your question. I'm trying to go through these in sequence, and you'll have to show up next week. I will be here next week, I promise. All right, Joseph in with a question. Should you advertise keywords where you already have good organic ranking? If so, would you go aggressive with them so you can help with maintain the good spot, or should you rather spend where you don't rank well yet? If you don't already have ads targeting these keywords, I probably wouldn't go through and try and like spend on them unless you determine I want to see if I can rank higher than I already am. In that case, it would make sense to go after them and target it. But I am assuming your question is actually talking about when you are already advertising for them and you have really good ranking and you're trying to determine if you should keep the ads. What you want to do, the easiest way to do this is going to be to lower your ACoS targets on that specific keyword. You don't want to lower it too less. So like say, and you want to go after whatever the current ACoS is. So if your current ACoS is say 35%, I would do a target ACoS of like 33% or maybe 30%, but that could be a potential jump. And then just say like, can I bring down my bids and not affect my total sales? If the answer is yes to that, fantabulous. Then maybe you go from next week, you're targeting a 33% ACoS and you go down to a 30%. You're basically saying, can I make this more profitable and not screw up my ranking and sales? And the easiest way to do that is going to be lowering your ACoS target bit by bit by bit, very carefully, and watching for the impact of that. Hopefully that was answering. All right, we have we have some more questions in the chat. I apologize, but I am over time. I gotta hop to another call, but I will be here exactly same time, same place next week. So make sure you show up and ask your Amazon ad questions then. And with that, I appreciate it. If anyone is watching and is interested in, hey, you had a lot of advice, what of that is applicable to my ad account? How do I get more out of my ads? I definitely recommend you go to our website, which is junglr.com, junglr.com, and you can reach out to me and I will do an audit of your ads. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to improve, and we will get you headed in the right direction. So with that, thanks guys. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a fabulous and wonderful Merry Christmas, and I will see you all next Thursday, same time, same place. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.